Welcome to Real Flix Reviews. We're like a book club for people hate reading. This month should be movies that are 5 out of 5. So Rob picked the movie The Great Escape, my 1963. And we have no movie news at the end of the program. This week, we have Jonathan Charney, James Stevens, Ryan Preston.
The old guys here.
And here's the description of The Great Escape.
Wow, you're going to do this?
Yep. I decided I'd throw it up a little bit.
He's making an executive decision.
I know. Didn't even ask anybody.
Yep.
So are we actually going to let him read it?
Probably not.
Again, it's the world's worst description for IMDb.
This one really takes the cake.
Jeez. Allied POWs plan for several hundred of their numbers to escape from a German camp during World War II. And before we start, though, James Garner, who was in this movie, just passed away last week. At
An amazing actor. Amazing actor.
And, you know, we lost a great one. If you don't know who he is, he played the original Brett Maverick back in 50s, early 60s. Also played that character's father in the opposite Mel Gibson. Was also in the Rockford Files.
You guys got to know Rockford Files. Yeah, how can you not know that? Yeah.
Anybody from sort of, me, James, and John's generation know him is kind of a little more lighthearted, seeing him in stuff like Maverick and whatnot. But next to Steve McQueen, this dude was one of the coolest cats that ever lived.
He was.
You know, honestly, I didn't actually know him from Maverick. I knew him from the Rockford Files. I used to watch the reruns of that all the time.
I started catching reruns of that stuff later on after I was familiar with him from Maverick.
Right.
I saw him in Maverick. I'm like, oh, dude, that's awesome.
See,
he was awesome.
I never knew him from Brett Maverick until my mom started watching, reruns on
Westerns.
the television.
She's into these Westerns.
I really enjoyed James Garner's career. He had a really good career. If you guys don't know him, look him up and watch the things he did.
And not knowing the man, but hearing from his friends, he was a true gentleman. He was a really super man.
They said something. I heard something that said he was like old school Hollywood.
Yeah.
Which apparently, which was a hell of a compliment.
Well, and he was old school Korean war vet for crying out loud. I mean, this
really?
dude,
I didn't know that.
Went through some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the movie. I was watching this movie, and it just kind of, since seeing the movies that they've pumped out recently, like The Expendables, this would be like what inspired a film like The Expendables to come out. All these great stars.
Yeah.
Great action stars. These were like the men of men.
Yep.
That, as far as movies goes, I mean, you literally have Steve McQueen, James Garner, you got
Richard Attenborough, Charles Bronson.
Yeah. You got
James Coburn.
Yeah.
Our man Flip.
Threw that out.
5 of the coolest guys that ever lived.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was the who's who's for movie stars in 19.
No kidding.
And not just I've brought up a number of times. Oh, this is the who's who of like 90s character actors or 70s character actors.
Like
this
Usual
is
Suspects.
who of like A-list celebrities.
I know.
In one movie.
Did you guys catch David McCollum? Who was on NCIS. He plays Ducky. He's still out there acting in his 80s.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I caught him.
You missed that?
I didn't catch that.
Oh yeah.
He didn't tell me.
I had to point it out to Jonathan. Yeah, you're very young, blonde, the very young blonde guy.
Yeah.
Who wore the glasses.
Oh yeah.
That's David McCollum.
He wore the dark.
There's another one that jumped out at me, and I can't remember
When he's
his
looking
name.
for the name, I got to say the first thing that really picked up in this movie is I'm surprised the Nazis were able to get anything done with all the paperwork. Because every scene you got with a commandant, he was signing something.
That's the Germans for you.
Holy crap!
Yeah, they were very serious about their paperwork,
They were.
and that's actually what caused them a lot of issues during the trials.
Hard to argue with their signature on this paperwork,
Right?
Anyway, one of the things I got to say is, the premise of this movie is like, really, what could go wrong? You take all your bad eggs and put them in a basket.
Yeah. And
then
expect them not to escape.
I keep on thinking, blow up the basket.
Yeah.
Thank you, Quentin Tarantino.
For the Nazis, this is a really big Schwarz's Law moment. If anybody doesn't know Schwarz's Law states that everything, that Murphy was an optimist. So this was, something was going to happen.
But I also got to say the little the music in the background is very catchy.
The theme song.
The theme song.
that's what got me to watch this movie in the first place. My grandfather was watching it. He gets all excited when it comes on cable one day, and I was pretty young, and I heard the music walking by the TV, and I'm like, oh shit, that is this where that music's from? Because obviously that became part of the pop culture.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then I sat down thinking, oh okay, I'll watch 5 minutes of this, and sat there through 2.5 hours of one of the cooler movies. But I mean, even to whatever I was 14, 13 watching this movie held my interest.
So that was only a couple
for
of years
ago.
As
it is, it had just enough of the right moments at the right time.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was 10 years old when this movie came out, so I got to see it as a kid, and I've watched this movie at least a dozen times, and it just never gets old.
It's kind of funny because that's pretty much how many times that I've seen it.
Yeah.
But the whole time I'm watching this film, I had seen Hogan's Heroes before this, and every time I'm watching, I'm always waiting for Sergeant Schultz to come walking. I know nothing. I was nothing.
There was an almost
there was a character.
There was a Schultz's character in there. Yeah, the guy that
lost his wallet.
Yeah, he stole his wallet from him. But the biggest thing for me in this film that I enjoyed was the banter.
Yes.
There was a lot of witty banter in between the characters, and the first little bit of banter that you notice it was Charles Bronson talking to it wasn't Garner. I'm trying to think of who he was talking to. It was another character. I think it was James Donald. He was talking to him, and there was a lot of little witty banter as he's handing him the jacket and going over to pull that little scheme just to test them constantly.
Yeah, well, shoot, that whole opening scene when they all get there and they're all kind of coming from different parts and sort of testing it in their own way, and everybody kind of makes that first blitz. It's like 3 hours after they've been there.
Yeah.
Not even that.
Yeah.
Here's the escape attempts. Within it was pretending to be a Russian. That was 2 guys. Hiding in a truck. I think that was another 2 guys. Stealing
one guy.
One guy. No, it was more because
there was one guy that looked in the truck.
Oh yeah.
To see if there was keys.
and the other guy was stealing the guard's keys, and there was digging under the fence towards the middle of the movie.
Yeah, and there's that one scene that really brings into the realism of the escape attempts when the guy gets caught in the fence and just mowed down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I like the sobriety that brought to a lot of the characters. And the actors that pulled that off after being so, happy-go-lucky,
right?
And then all of a sudden they just kind of see that, and it just kind of snapped.
Brought it home, and
don't forget this was... And they did a good job of showing you without verbalizing anything.
Yeah.
It was all a lot of their emotion and their body language.
Oh yeah, incredible,
that was amazing.
And this was based off a true story.
Yes.
So I mean, it's pretty awesome.
A couple of true stories. And sort of collected.
Yeah.
Well, that's Hollywood.
Right.
I gotta say though, to a non sequitur.
For a crazy big Hollywood movie, the word you said, sobering, was pretty good. I mean, that's,
hey, buddy.
Looks like the Big Brother house.
When you think of that thought, I gotta say my favorite line in the entire movie was the German commandant talking to, I think it was Steve McQueen. He said, "Are all American officers so ill-mannered?" And Steve McQueen's comment, "Yeah, about 99%." It's like I love that line right there. Literally sets the pace for the entire movie.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And for me, this movie didn't really feel like 3 hours, though.
No.
Just shy of 3 hours, but there is a lot of things that just happen in this movie all around, and I like the fact that they stole the potatoes to make moonshine.
Yes.
And that was another thing that kind of surprised me is the amount of resources that they were able to gather.
A scrounger, James Gardner.
Like the one scene where they're making the uniforms, the big accent. Yeah. Where did you get all this stuff? He got it. It's like, where'd he get it? Oh.
I try to ask him.
It's like, doesn't want to ruin his trade secrets.
Yeah.
James Garner was really good in this movie. He was probably one of my favorite characters.
Brilliant. Yeah, totally.
Especially when
he was the Red, from Shawshank.
Yeah. Especially when he stole the guy's wallet, just kind of went, whink.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty cool.
My only issue is that the clown closet. Anyway, my only issue is that there was a couple scenes that I thought were overly dramatically acted. where they're kind of like flamboyantly throwing themselves around a little bit. And it was kind of in the more dramatic scenes of, where the guy goes blind and finds out that he can't go on there, and he kind of like throws himself up against the wall. And then there was the Irish guy when he gets caught the second time and thrown into the cooler tank, and he comes running in there and flies up against the wall. That to me, it takes away from the movie a little bit.
I
me.
actually
And
disagree.
I disagree
I don't like
too.
Well, I completely agree because I think, well, for one, those
But
moments.
that's something you see in the
Oh, yeah.
in the time
Yeah.
period.
But I think, for one, I think those moments are rare. But the reason I think they're good is you get to see. It kind of showed you the extreme desperation
Yes.
of I think it was an Irish guy who just had to escape. He what he called him, something a wire. He said he'd been doing it so long he was just about to run the wire.
Oh, okay.
Was it the term he used?
Yeah, I understand.
I
Which means that they cross the line and get
Yeah.
shot.
I
'cause the
love.
wire.
Right.
I loved those moments because, for one, they were quick. Yeah, they were a little over dramatic, but I thought they really put the nail on the head of trying to show how hard it is for some guys, or how hard is it in general, and that these guys work really hard to keep their spirits up.
But that just may be my thing, is that I think that him throwing his body like that, just, it doesn't seem to me realistically how that character would really act.
Yeah,
That
I kind of agree with you, James. A couple of moments seemed a little over dramatic, a little bit long on a couple of parts. I think some of it was a product of the 60s.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of time period for that type of body language and throwing it around.
Right. And also really laying on those moments longer than you're used to seeing. But it also, the yin and yang of that is you get to see a lot of the moments that you wouldn't see in a movie nowadays, like just the in-between things, where it would be cut to this or cut to that, or this guy goes through this door, cut to later on, when he's doing something else. It's the story of the guy going through the door and continuing whatever he was doing. I don't know, it makes you seem a little more involved in everything that's going on.
I am kind of curious about the whole movie, when they start taking stuff apart. Where did all this extra space come from? Like the scene where they made that utility closet, for the air pump was in there. Did the Nazis just make rooms that didn't exist? Because you started seeing pulling off panels in a giant room behind it.
Well, come on. When you're building things to code in Germany, there's like this much space between all the drywall from the interior to the exterior.
Okay.
German engineering, don't blame me.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Because I kept seeing that. There was like, the couple of scenes there. It's like, wow. And then they start pulling boards, and somehow nobody's noticing the building's rocking back and forth.
There is that one scene that I thought was really well done, where James Garner's talking to the German guy, and he starts to kind of work him. Pretty much. He's working him, but
The Schultz
I
character.
like the way, the Schultz character. I like the way that they kind of started to relate, like, one-on-one, because that's something that a lot of war movies don't actually do.
Yeah.
They don't bring the personalized...
They don't humanize the Nazis.
Yeah, exactly. The humanizing of the Nazis, which was something that happened a lot. That's one of the things we discussed last week about Band of Brothers, where the guy pretty much found out that that guy was a Nazi, not only a Nazi, but he's from America.
Right.
Yeah, the same.
Yeah,
it
was like
His town was his hometown.
Yeah, it was
right.
his hometown.
See, and I think the benefit of that, the cool thing about that scene too, because he was talking about how for the American soldiers, a lot more leeway, and in the army, for him, he can't make any mistakes, or else boom, right to the Russian front. I liked how it showed how, a lot of these guys were just trying to cross the T's, dot the I's, because they were really afraid of, the Fuhrer and the people above him just killing him, basically.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that even Garner told the other guys, "Hey, we really don't want this to happen to this guy."
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's not a bad guy.
Yeah.
Really, the Nazis, not all of them were bad people.
Oh yeah, yeah. Totally.
And I like the fact that this movie incorporated that.
Not a lot of the soldiers weren't.
Yes, the soldiers.
You start getting up into the SS and the Luftwaffe and things like that. Then you're you're dealing with people who knew what.
Well,
what was
even
going on.
I
Yeah,
don't even
they're
think
evil.
even the
Exactly.
I
They're very
think
evil.
even the
Whether
commandant.
just complacent or not, I mean, it's still shit.
I think even the commandant in this movie was a pretty good guy. Like, he basically said, "Look, just take it easy. This is a cupcake camp. Just don't do anything stupid. Don't get caught.
Well,
it'll be good."
Not all,
Shoot,
not
that was
all
my
the,
favorite scene in the movie.
not all the commandants that were in charge of the POW camps were, Auschwitz
Well, yeah.
commanders.
I just meant this. Like, that's
I
why I
see
liked
you.
it, because this guy in particular, generally seemed to care, but he knew that he had a line to toe and tried very carefully to keep it for a camp that would keep these guys alive and healthy to the end of the war, versus his obligation to not.
Kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think their idea was pretty much, okay, well, if we keep them, sort of comfortable and not causing any shit, then
They'll
we
behave
can all kind
themselves.
of get through it,
Yeah.
easily and everything. But
Didn't
like I
work.
was saying, it's my favorite scene in the movie is because he was like a lieutenant, English lieutenant. One of the commanders, when he was having the conversation with it, was like, "Look, I mean, it's our sword.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
that was
to disrupt you guys at all costs.
He was
Right.
British. He was
as
a.
much shit as we can."
I think he was the British commander or
He was,
whatever of that.
yes.
Yeah.
He was the
but
guy
it
that
was,
stayed
it was
behind.
the understanding between the two officers, enemies, that, okay, yeah, it's your job to start some shit, and it's our job to stop you.
Right.
Yeah.
But they both understood their roles, and there was this kind of mutual respect, like, okay, well, you're following orders, I get that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like that part too.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite parts. I
I-
like the way that they spoke pretty much plainly to each other. I thought
Yeah.
that was really.
And it sets up
A
the
good
whole
scene.
movie.
It does.
Which,
Yeah.
despite what
sorry.
you think, is not about an escape. It's about Steve McQueen riding a motorcycle.
Right?
That part too, and how cool he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
And
king
then
of
he
cool.
jumped over the fence.
Oh
and,
yeah,
you know.
unreal. And he did all on his own stunts.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually, even the stunt when he pulls the wire across the road
Yeah,
to stop the Nazi to steal his bike, he's the Nazi on the bike.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He did that too. Yeah,
I
pretty amazing.
I want to say though, making
They don't make 'em like
250
that.
uniforms,
like that.
civilian clothes, ID
I told
ID
you my
papers,
story.
making pick, shovel, and
About
food.
running him over.
That was a lot of stuff to make.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff to make. We had
Yeah.
a sidebar
He
here.
got a lot of free time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I have to admit, I mean, I wonder where they got it all. I mean, was there a Nazi somewhere missing his entire uniform, or
they had
'cause they
stores. They stored their stuff somewhere. He was just figured out a way to get in there.
Yeah.
like
Well,
like stealing those metal things to make that pickaxe?
Sure, exactly. I was sharing with James while you were talking for a minute. I have a little bit of fame with Steve McQueen. So when
Ran him down with his car.
when my wife and I first got married, this is 1976. We were parked on Wilshire Boulevard in front of the bank. Hold on, what?
Sorry,
No,
I
he's
just can't
listening.
wait to hear this story.
Oh yeah, okay. So we're waiting in front of the bank, and my wife comes in the car, and I start to pull out, and who's standing right in front of me? Steve McQueen.
You hit Steve McQueen.
I tapped Steve McQueen. I didn't run him over, but I ran into him. Yeah,
You know,
and,
the
and we
guy-
kind of shared looks, and he kind of went.
The guy from Pawn Stars, which he's so jealous, right?
He would. So I actually have a moment with Steve McQueen. I had a moment. Yeah.
Almost.
And he probably remembered it too.
Not for
doesn't
very
anymore.
long, but
That
he did for a
jerk
while.
off hit me with his car.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
he at least went home and told
And
somebody
didn't
about
have the
Well,
balls to ask for my autograph.
No, I didn't even have this. Poor Paula, she felt, oh my God, you almost ran over Steve McQueen.
You should.
That would have been
What
terrible.
he should have done is bust out a pen and sign your hood.
Yeah, that's what he should have done.
Steve McQueen.
Oh, that would have been a good move.
Oh well.
Totally.
So I have history with the guy.
That's
No,
funny.
I want to ask.
Glad
What,
the history doesn't go any further than
Yes,
that.
yeah, I didn't have to attend the funeral for that anyway.
so what was your guys' favorite piece of POW engineering? Because mine still has to be the air pump.
It was very clever the way they got the air in. Obviously, that was done very well. I like the track
That's a
system.
necessity.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I was looking
the
at this time.
moonshine,
Yeah.
on the other hand, that's just, again, kind of free time mixed with. It's not necessity being the mother of all invention on this one. It's
Boredom.
sort of like boredom meets like you know, what would we really want to be doing right now?
Well, somebody obviously knew how to make moonshine,
and
and there were
everybody's-
potatoes.
And a still and everything.
Yeah,
everybody's
the still
reaction.
was pretty ingenious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that-
love
you know,
everybody's reaction, like smooth,
Yeah.
you know, that's
except for that one guy.
I gotta agree with
Okay.
Ryan. You know, I'm kind of with Ryan and Rob here on this one because the track system that
Yeah.
they had down there was just
Pure genius.
really.
Yeah.
You guys put that in there too.
Yeah.
You know, and then the moonshine when that scene came up, I'm just like, hey, how did you get the wire and bend it and do all that
And that giant
with,
glass jug.
with what? You know, seriously,
Yeah.
that's where I came back to is with what? And
Where'd you
then
get it all? Yeah.
as John just pointed out, the big glass jug. How did you manage that?
Those were questions you weren't supposed to ask.
And that's why I always defer back to Hogan's
Hogan's
Heroes.
Hogan's Heroes, that's right.
Not-
But at the same time, throughout history, prisoners have been some of the most ingenious
Genius, yeah.
Absolutely.
inventors ever. I would love to see a museum dedicated to the shit they found in prisons.
Right.
They
You know what I
have
mean?
that
Whether it
at
be
Folsom.
tools or
All the
I'm not
prisons
talking
have
about
them,
shivs. I'm talking about escaping tools or moonshine or just clever little ways to light your cigarettes. You know?
Yeah.
So James, what do you give this movie?
You know, I love this movie. There's a lot of, like I said, I mean, the acting,
him
the
in the
body
vibe.
language, everything is amazing. But for me, there's not that oomph of a 5. And it
And you
really,
gave last
you know,
week's movie a 5? There's something wrong with you.
I just, for
I
some
just-
reason, it's just not there, and I can't think of why. There's just
Maybe you're
one
too young.
thing missing that just drives it over the edge.
So Ryan,
I, on the other hand, can give it a 5, man.
sucking
Damn,
up the
attaboy.
old guy.
It's still cool as shit. And it's not like one of those, oh, these people were only cool in the 60s or only cool in the 50s. You still want to be these guys. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be him now, but
Yeah.
But you
no,
don't wanna be
you're
dead.
right.
not really.
And it's a story that, I mean, it takes place in such a specific time and place
Yes.
that it holds up. I mean, it doesn't have to look new for the story to play. You know?
And I think the older this movie gets, just the better it's going to become because it has the feel that I think that people expect
It's
out
awesome.
of an old.
It's an awesome movie. You got to remember when it was made, 1963.
So I
And did you watch the black and white version this time around? Just curious.
It was in color then too.
All right,
and
okay.
and believe it or not, it talked. I mean, he was really surprised at that, especially considering it was 10.
It was holding up the candles so that you'd have enough light to see the film. That was
So I actually kind of agree with Ryan. I give this a 5 out of 5. There's some of my favorite actors in there, and Charles Bronson before he made a bunch of bad movies. So it has to be a 5 out of 5, and I actually liked his acting in this movie, which kind of took me back going, he was a good actor.
The one thing I will say, though, is Coburn, James Coburn,
Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that guy.
had the worst ever
Aussie
Australian
accent. Yeah, he did.
Oh,
But back then, accents weren't as important as they are now.
Well,
So-
back then, nobody knew what
Yeah.
an Australian was actually supposed to sound like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Imagine being
True.
a Kiwi.
yeah.
So,
No, it was-
old guy.
well, I'm obviously going to give this a 5 out of
he
5,
picked
and this is the movie. This is the yeah, I picked it. So hey, I could
Oh, no,
be
he's
wrong
gonna give it a
too,
2.
I'm the other side of me, saying
would be
no,
awesome.
No, actually, I'm thinking for a movie of this caliber with these actors all at one time in this year is just you never saw anything like it. It was just awesome. I mean, how cool can you get? Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, Donald Pleasanton, James Coburn. I mean, you just go on and on and on, and it's just like it's unreal. So
I agree. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
yeah,
what I'm
it's-
saying is like the Expendables are trying to do it and they're failing.
yeah.
Well, the expendable actors a lot of them were not that
Bad
good.
actors to
They
begin
weren't
with.
Steve McQueen. They weren't
Yeah.
James Garner.
No,
Yeah.
no.
And the difference is, I think, during 1963, some of these guys hadn't hit their peak. The
Oh, they had
Expend-
huge careers
But-
ahead of them.
The,
yet.
the Expendables, their career is
Yeah,
10
behind
years
them.
behind
Yeah.
them.
That's a good point too.
So, and ladies and gentlemen, I want to let you know that we do have a Facebook page. Tell us what you think. Do you hate us? Do you have a movie you'd like to review or a theme you'd like to pick. And I also
Better yet, hit that damn donate button. I need to see some money. The counting side needs to see some money now.
Well, but before I was really interrupted, I was going to say, donate some money. Another thing you can do is go to our website and go /Amazon. Go to theogt.tv/Amazon. On that button, on that page, there are buttons so you can, help Old Guy Tech TV by shopping through Amazon. Everything you buy, we get a couple of cents. And please, buy some movie tickets and help Old Guy Tech TV stay on the air. Or
I hope you guys
doesn't
brought
cost
a pen and
anything
paper
extra
with you.
when you do that clicking through thing. It just, you're going to purchase whatever you purchase, but we get a little taste.
Exactly.
That's it. Just a couple pennies each. That adds up.
And this week we're going to do something different. Instead of movie news, what we're going to do is we're going to catch you up on
Band of Brothers.
On Band of
Band
Brothers.
of
So
Brothers.
We've been 2 weeks behind, so we're not wanting to do that because it,
Too hard to keep track.
He's an old guy.
I'm an
and
old guy.
his
Too hard to keep
memory
track.
just sucks.
you should watch him try to find his keys.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're doing Day of Days and Carentan all the same
Right.
today. So
Right.
Day of Days, fantastic episode.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We kind of touched on a little bit of that the tactics that they used to take the guns became.
Yeah.
It even says in
Yeah.
there that it became. They started teaching that tactic at West Point.
How well
and
it worked.
It
Yeah.
wasn't even created. They
No.
just did it.
It was on the
That's
fly
right.
because if you actually watch it, Miners grabbed a potato masher,
Well, what
a
hap-
grenade, and threw it down the
So
barrel.
So the Germans, they found a way of blocking it. So the Germans decided that they were going to use their howitzers in a 3-gun fashion, and that was
Yeah.
a new tactic at the time.
It was a good tactic
Yeah,
too.
totally.
Oh yeah, and our guys figured out how to, you take out one, you're going to be able to take out all 3, and that's what they did, and it was ingenious.
And finally, a perfect use for that damn shaky cam.
Yeah. And the thing that also if you are paying attention, pay attention to Spears' character. He's going to come in later in the show. I've watched this thing probably 4 or 5 times already all the way through. But I love the hint that they kind of throw in there where he comes up, and they did it so smoothly and hidden in there.
Yeah.
Hey, get cigarettes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah, take the whole pack. So that's something that you guys got to watch. And I mean, the balls on that guy, really, just to charge that howitzer gun
Yeah,
by himself. And that really happened, people.
yeah.
That's the thing I got to emphasize over and over again. This is not made up.
And the thing,
This is based on true story.
and
Remember those
Actual
guys talking
events.
at the beginning of the show? Those are the guys.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
right.
that ran
right. That actually
into
did stuff.
that gunfire
Yeah.
was standing there pulling his troops up as bullets are flying all around him and not hitting him.
Yeah,
I mean, think about that in
I
real
know,
life.
it's
Think
amazing.
about
There's-
bullets hitting all around you, and somehow these Nazis are missing you.
there's 2 things in this episode that I really like.
Amazing.
That really show at least what you expect warfare to look like. There's the scene where the bullets coming around you, and the guy almost getting killed twice with grenades.
Yeah.
And
My gosh.
at the end of that, his comment was, "Not again."
Yeah, and then he's apologizing too. I'm sorry I got hit in the ass with shrapnel.
And just that was one of the moments going, wow. So I love Day of Days is amazing. And
Now I'm going to kind of blend these two together for a second here, and the thing that I want to point out is that if the people aren't actually paying attention and they're watching this and they just see these guys dropping, those are actual guys that these people knew, and they dropped right in front of them like that.
Yeah,
And-
it's time to turn around and memorialize everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I don't think people pay attention in there is that these were guys that were their buddies,
Mhm.
and it's like pretty much a lotto draw as to whether the bullet's going to hit you. or
Oh,
not.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and they did have that one scene in Carentan where the guys comes up and they were one of the few people who actually charged.
Yeah.
And they get up there and they have the sniper right there and he starts shooting at him and it's Shifty. You guys won't know Shifty's character until later on. They bring him more into play, but he's a really good shot. Shifty's sitting there and he takes out 2 guys, but the guy that was across the street from him's kind of trying to wave him and say, hey, and then just drops right then and there. I mean, the look on Shifty's face, I think people need to pay attention to. If you haven't watched the episode, look at his face right there. The actor did a fantastic job.
And the other scene on Karen Tan that I thought that really did well was the scene with Lai. Was the whole, they called it shell shock or battle
yes,
fatigue.
they didn't
back
know what
then.
that was.
Right.
That's PTSD, guys.
And that look of just terror, you know. And,
Oh, well, he went blind.
Yeah.
And just imagine that.
Hysterical blindness.
Yeah.
Yes, they didn't know about that either.
No.
That's the thing that people probably won't realize is that that's what they're showing you in that actually happened to Blythe, and this is like the first case they ever
unknown.
came across.
Yeah,
And
it was
he-
unknown at that
And
time.
he never made it. They never really survived either.
Yeah.
Next week's episodes is Replacements, which is
Yes.
episode number 4.
Yeah.
So make sure you watch that. And next week is
We're kind of going over on those 2 episodes, huh?
And
Sorry,
next-
I wasn't done.
sorry. Well,
It's okay.
Make sure you stay tuned to the end. This is a 10-episode series as far as Band of Brothers. Make sure you stay towards episode on week 11. We're going to review the entire thing. It'll be kind of a broad brush.
And obviously, we have a lot to say.
Right.
Yeah, I have.
And what you have to say today, just repeat next week.
Yeah. Okay.
You
There
know,
we go.
you know, you should see my notes. And next week's a theater pick, so we picked the movie Lucy with Scarlett Johansson and everybody's favorite Morgan Freeman.
Then we get to figure out why they picked the name Lucy.
Yeah, go check out Along Came a Spider. That's another good Morgan Freeman movie.
Yeah. Well, I just
And ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you, Ryan.
ladies and gentlemen,
Glad you got that.
I gave the movie The Great Escape a 5. James gave it a 4.
I'm the Russian judge.
yes.
Ryan and Rob gave it a 5. And as always, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Goodbye.